kind of a weird day, but I had the idea to do, in this strange lighting that looks horrible, a synastry or synastry reading about Taurus and Aries. I hope you can hear me. So this is an interesting match. It's semisexile, which means that I think it's 90 degrees apart. So the signs are right next to each other, right? So there can be a brother, sister, or brother, I mean, it doesn't matter, sibling-esque nature to this relationship. Similar to any other relationship that is side by side, Sagittarius and Scorpio, Libra and Virgo, Libra and Scorpio. So there's competition, and there's similarity, and there's camaraderie, okay? And friendship, I want to say. So Aries is the infant, and Taurus is the toddler. Aries is the ram, and Taurus is the bull. So I feel like I've just explained the issues right there. Best thing about this is if they can get their stuff under control, and I'm thinking of a big word that is 5 letters, and I'll let you guess what it is. If they can get that under control for both of themselves, then they can be like a couple of tots in a playpen full of goodies and toys, you know, with all the riches and all the goods. Taurus will fill Aries' life with sensuality and beauty, maybe design, money. They might foot the bill if if Aries is impulsive, and you know, sometimes it takes Aries more time to know what they want to do. So that's an attraction there initially, that the Aries may be the one who's like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, and Taurus is like, here, why don't you hitch your horse to my wagon? And Aries is like, okay, I quite like this wagon. And so yeah, the attraction is very intense, and it's like probably at first sight. Aries is both are signs of sex. I was gonna also say that Taurus usually will fill, if it's a man, will fill the Aries man's life with children, babies, because Taurus can be a sign about fertility. Relating how to the bull god was worshipped in ancient Sumeria, or Sumer, if you want to call it that, as a fertility god. So also just Mother Earth relates to Taurus. The bull is, I was going to say that Aries is very attracted. They're both signs of sex, but in different ways. Aries is sexuality relating to Mars, and then Taurus is Venus, which is relationship, and so of course that is about sex. But the Taurus will be beautiful and attractive. Even if it's a man, they'll be attractive and pleasant to the eye, and so the Aries will be attracted to that. Aries is the 12th house for Taurus, and Taurus is the 2nd house for Aries. So 2nd house is our home, our self-esteem, our job, like our income. It can be just our money, and like how we get our money. And yeah, it can be like just that they live together. Maybe they share money, you know. The Taurus may provide a home, literally. Like maybe they come from, usually the father has wealth with Taurus, or they have some sort of relational wealth because they're opposite Scorpio. Okay, so they may. So it's just funny that it lines up that this 2nd house, which is wealth, just income, self-esteem, and the home is Taurus, which is, it's like once Aries meets Taurus, they're like getting all those things. And then Aries highlights the subconscious for Taurus, which is intense loneliness, because Aries is about being alone, and the 12th house can be the negative traits of that sign. That's why Taurus needs relationship. I mean, this is just also the human condition, but just for Taurus, they love to have that companion. And I was going to say the attraction for Taurus, also that can mean gestation with the 12th house. They may have like an instant like, oh, I'm going to have babies with this person. Because the 12th house can be gestation. So maybe they're like meeting the Aries and they're like literally feeling their like hormones and pheromones kicking up, that they're like, oh my god, I want to procreate like right now. The 12th house can be the womb and just conception in general. Also the subconscious. Okay, so the Aries, I said the subconscious can, for Taurus, can be isolation and being alone, but also anger, you know. And that was the 5-letter word that I was going to say. They both need to get that under control. Aries is a sign of anger and like just intensity, because it is Mars, and Taurus can have quite a temper, because the bull is peaceful in its sunning in the beautiful spot it has in the fields until there's a bee in its bonnet and it is not happy and it's pissed, and it's like just the bull with the red flag. That may be a problem here, is even though Aries has anger too, okay, Aries may strategically see that Taurus gets angry about certain things and then like exploit that with there may be conflicts where the Aries feels like less than, or like they feel stupid, or like because the Taurus is ahead of them in some ways. So there may be situations where the Taurus is like, you're irresponsible, like you're a child, I'm a toddler. I'm just joking, because Taurus is a toddler. It's like, you're not that much older, Taurus. But literally, there may be like a lot of experiences where Taurus is like, I'm wise and you're like so immature. But they're just honestly mirroring their own immaturity. Aries can get explosively angry too, but it's different. It's like impassioned anger, where it's like about like, since they're opposite Libra, it's often about like things that are just like, this is not right, you know, or like for the good of all. They may get angry for like safety purposes in times, you know, at times, because they relate to the savior archetype, okay? And maybe like, you know, there's times when anger, I'm thinking of the kind of anger where a woman pulls a car off of her baby, or that takes quite a lot of adrenaline, okay? So that's Aries. They're angry, but sometimes it's good for good reason, all right? And they're also just kind of like, they're just a hothead. Like, it's almost like anything could set them off. And so it's like more like this just person who's getting angry all day. That can be challenging. Or someone who is coming up against conflict all day, right? Especially for Aries rising. They usually grew up in areas or homes where, or early life was conflict oriented, and they had to learn to be like a warrior. And then so Taurus usually can get mad about like, they set up their things a certain way and they like it a certain way, and now somebody's messing with it and now it's not that way, and now they're really pissed and now their stuff isn't how they want it, and how dare you do that, because they do so much, and it's like it's like ridiculous. But they're more like, it's more like they take these superficial things too, that usually has to do with like objects, ownership, like money, things, what's theirs, the house. It all has to do with Taurus things, food. These are things they might literally like get angry about if they're like mismanaged, or they feel like someone's messing with any of those things. I know, it sounds crazy, right? But yeah, so it can be like, but that's, I guess I was delving into some of the negative things where like Aries can be like constantly like, oh, just like, because the reasons that Taurus, as I said, can piss them off is that Taurus makes them feel like a child or something. Taurus is like, has a little bit of an air of superiority because they're like, I'm an earth sign, like I'm like steady, right? And you're just like a fire sign, and you're like, so you're like all over the place is what they feel. And that can get annoying for the Aries, and they're like, I want to rebel, you know? And so what can happen is that the fire can scorch the earth. So Aries can burn Taurus. It's like sick burn, man, you know, when someone like insults someone. And then that can hurt the sensitive feminine sign that is Taurus, which means they're much more like interior, internal, whatever, you know. And the way that Aries, and then Taurus can just like put so much earth in practicality. Literally, it's like, just imagine putting out a flame with dirt, which can happen in terms of if you have the right scale. If you have a dump truck of soil and you're putting on a tiny flame that's like just learning to get big again, yeah, it's gonna go out. So that's when Taurus is like, practical, we need to be practical, and Aries is like, okay, you win, all right. And that's sad, and we don't want that to happen either. So it's kind of a tricky situation, but they can really thrive together also. The Taurus will teach the Aries patience. Patience is a virtue. And because they've had to learn that themselves with their own trigger hair temper, and they're sort of whimsical, the Taurus. They're funny, and like whimsical is like whimsy, like I want to say silly. Okay, that's their sense of humor, and the Aries will like that because it's playful like a child. So that's where they can connect. And also the midpoint for these two will be somewhere between, depending on what part of Aries or Taurus they're born in. Like, are they born in the beginning of the month or the end of the month? The midpoint between them, which tells us the nature of the relationship overall, will usually obviously be between Aries and Taurus. And either one of those can be about birth for Aries, so they may have kids together again, and Taurus can just be about sensuality. So there can be like problems with communication here, because Aries is a masculine sign, okay? It's kind of like this is the dynamic. Aries is like, hey, here I am, I'm in the world, and I'm kind of like sensitive, but like I want to like be out there and like, yeah, let's like do stuff. And then Taurus is like, I'm like shy and I'm in the corner, but I'm mysterious, but I'm steady, but I smile and laugh sometimes, and I'm charming, but I'm not really gonna tell you what's going on. And Aries loves that. Aries is like, oh, who's this like quiet person who like has money? I'm not gonna lie, that's an attraction for the Aries. They're like, oh, like it's not just the money, it's the Empress energy. Even if it's a man, that would be like Emperor energy, because Aries like is a sign of power and control, and it's like sometimes they like to release that power and control. So that's where it can get interesting in sort of bedroom for these two. Like, it's like, who's got the power? I don't know, because like Taurus can like just sort of meaningless romp in the hay. Sorry, this is getting like ridiculous. But you know, Taurus is like, oh, you're here? Sure, why not have sex? They're kind of practical. They're like, sure, I need to like do that physical thing today. Let's get that done. And it is sensual. It's about the body. It's like, oh, it feels so good. And like, you know, and Aries is like amazed that like they get to like be with this beautiful creature who's like kind of just like willing to whatever, because Aries is very sexual. Where that gets, and I was gonna say that the control can be like given up to Taurus, because they can be like just sort of disciplinarians and like conservative. Taurus may play hard to get for a long time, and then Aries may be like love that because they love the chase, and that may continue on in the relationship, okay? Because there may be a dynamic here where Aries is like, but I love you, and I've like told you I love you, and Taurus is like, I don't like trust that you love me until you give me like $100,000. No, really, but like security is everything. So the Aries may constantly be trying to prove themselves financially to the Taurus, which may get exhausting, to prove their love through service, through wealth. And the Taurus may say like, you know, they provide everything and whatever. That's very common, that they're going to be trying to like one-up each other. I was going to say some issues with the communication though, like, is that dynamic of hard to get, catch me if you can continue in the relationship, because Taurus can be reserved, they can be conservative, which can mean maybe they are chatty and fun, but they don't really go that deep. And then Aries, I mean, Taurus does have depth, but Aries may feel abandoned in that sort of like coldness that Taurus is just like, well, we woke up and we did all the chores and we got our money and we had the sex and now I'm gonna go to bed, see ya. And Aries is like, oh, maybe we could like talk about some like books, or maybe we could like just sit around or like go for an adventure together. And Taurus is like, oh no, my schedule is 8 o'clock bedtime. Another problem, you know, like I guess I'm saying that like Aries may feel like there's like some intimacy that they're looking for with the Taurus, even though at other times the Taurus can be incredibly nurturing to the Aries and be like very mothering and supportive. So yeah, and I think that there's a lot of room for both signs to grow. Sorry, I'm just thinking about what Linda Goodwin would say about this matchup here. She would focus on, I think, the animals. If we talk about growth for the animals, it's like the ram is coming at problems with their horns. Like they're like, let me at it. You know, they're like, they're throwing objects of projectile things that are like problems. And the ram is like, yeah, let me at it. And then the bull is also like, let me just charge ahead at the problem. You know, they're both like can-do people in that way, and also that can be problematic for the relationship. It's just like two animals with horns like coming at each other, and it's like, who's the boss, like the TV show. It's like, who's in charge? And the truth is both people are in charge, or mostly Taurus is in charge and Aries takes a back seat, honestly, because Taurus is the Emperor card, they're the boss. And Aries, I know it's such a sign of power, and they have the 12th house in Pisces. it can make them very sensitive. They can make them pushovers. I've seen many an Aries man be like ruled by their wife, not in a bad way, but like I knew an artist who was an Aries and just became, I guess, completely dependent in years that went by on his wife, and stopped working, and which is a shame because he was a great teacher. Sorry if you're watching this, I don't mean to offend you. Okay, I'm thinking of that person, and I'm thinking of some other conflicts we might have here, is that Aries is like impulsive and unaware. Like they may like do things where like they're like, oh shit, I didn't like mean to do that. Or they may like do things and think they're being sly, and it's like very obvious what they're doing. And so the Taurus may be like just constantly like, you're lying, or like you're not being straight with me. But it's like the Aries is, they're just like a child. They do things that are foolish, and then they feel sorry, and then it's embarrassing, you know? Like there's a sweetness to Aries. There's a like an innocence, like a nascent quality, or like a naivete. And Taurus isn't as naive. They're more business people, okay? That sounds like such a cutoff point, but Taurus, once they meet the Aries, they're like, okay, we're gonna have the babies, we're gonna have the house, we're gonna get the things together, we're gonna have our long-term stability, and it's gonna be great. And Aries meets them, and they're just like, oh, I'm in love with you, like, let's like be in love. And it's just like different. Can you see how that's like different like thoughts and needs and goals? But really what will happen, since the Aries is the sign of the open chart, which means that really any sign that comes into their life will hit that part of their life. So if they meet a Sagittarius, their 9th house is being hit, okay? Which is philosophy and all of the wonderful thoughts they have about that. If they meet someone who is a Leo, their 5th house will be activated, and they're going to be like, oh, I never knew I loved performing and creativity, you know? If they meet a Scorpio, all that intensity and trauma and crisis is activated, and it's like a lot for them. If they meet a Taurus, money's activated, steadiness, stability, sex, okay? And like, even if they do go periods without sex, it's a sign, it's a pairing of sex, because of just the midpoint being probably in Aries, or right, or just even the midpoint could be the cusp of power, which is Aries and Taurus cusp, which is very sexual. So I said they may go periods without sex because another issue here may be that the Taurus can be flirtatious. It's like Libra, okay? Because they're ruled by Venus. Just think of how Libra loves to flirt, but Taurus does have their 2nd house in Gemini, so they may have the gift of the gab. They may make money off of Gemini things, talking to people, being chatty. You know, they may have a job where communication is very important. Languages, short trips, people that you know, the neighbors. I don't know. This is the kind of thing that they excel at. So I'm trying to say, I'm saying there may be like admirers. There may be like people who like come and flirt with the Taurus, and they love the Taurus, and the Taurus may like that. They're like, oh, look at all these people who like me, because they're like, at their hearts, they're baby hedonists, which I don't think is bad. They're just like, more for more sake, similar to Sagittarius and Jupiter energy. They're just like, yes, more admirers. And not that they would even really probably act on any of them if they're in a serious commitment, because that's very serious for them. And usually Taurus will marry young and stay committed, most Tauruses. But that doesn't mean they won't allow Jimmy or Johnny or Sue to come by and flirt every Tuesday afternoon. And or the Aries may realize that at their place of work there's like several admirers who they go to lunch with every day or something, you know, and then the Aries will be like, oh, I hate you now. Okay, jealousy is the word here. So the Aries may be jealous of what's happening here with all the admirers of the beauty, the gift of the gab, the sort of skill with finances, the sort of artistic flair also that ironically this conservative sign of Taurus has. They do have like an artsy vibe, which is like weird. You wouldn't expect that because it has to do with how the earth, Mother Earth, is really the ultimate creator. And so there's a thrifty, and they can be hoarders too, and the Aries won't like that because they can be OCD with their Virgo in the 6th house. That's a point of tension. How do we organize the house? Taurus will have many collections of things, and the Aries will say, why must we have these things? Why must we have piles of things? or the Taurus will like the house very conservative way. The walls must be white and and everything must be like this, and the Aries will be like, no, I want like a bright red like sculpture in the middle of the room. Like we can't like have it all, like, you know, there's just some different sensibilities here. It's almost like classicism, I mean like classical nature, like I'm thinking of classical art and like classical music is the Taurus, and then, or like opera, and then the Aries is like rock and roll, okay? Or like maybe just like 60s folk bands and rock and roll. It's like different sensibilities, okay? I'm sorry, but this is getting so convoluted. But I think it's, if Aries can then like manage their jealousy, which they may then try to like drag other people into like make the Taurus jealous, which will work. And the Taurus, that can actually create more intimacy. Then the Taurus will say, hey, I'm jealous, because they're a very jealous sign and they're also immature, and they'll watch this, their lovely Aries, it's theirs, they own them, getting this attention, and they'll say, hey, that's my Aries, and that will probably bring them closer. And then the Aries can say, oh, you do care. I thought you didn't care because you had all your boyfriends and girlfriends or whatever. So that's something that can happen here. And if that does happen, it's actually kind of sweet when they come back together. And I recommend like counseling for this couple and all couples, because yeah, just that, like, it can get, I don't want to say that Aries gets bored, but they get bored. And it's not like even personal at all. It's like they're like a sign where it's like they got to be stimulated, and they're like excited, and like, and then Taurus literally can just be boring because they're like, I want to do like simple things, I want to like do the same things every day. And so that can be a problem. It's not so much the Aries would want to leave the relationship, because they will enjoy not only the financial relationship they've built together, but just growing old together. They will like that with the Taurus, because they need the sort of like stability, honestly, not just the financial, but like the, not even emotional, just like the literal stability that the Taurus provides. They need that. These two can like get into some drinking together, just like alcoholism or like just heavy drinking. Taurus will suggest that they buy a bunch of alcohol with the money that they've made from their endeavors together. Also, the Aries will be like, we should really like start our own business, because they're like entrepreneurs and they like to work for themselves. And the Taurus will be like, oh, you think you could get us a bunch of money? And then that will be like a huge turn on. Like money is an aphrodisiac for these two, okay? They're like, they love money together. And there may be periods where like the Aries supports the Taurus. I mean, most marriages are like this, but there may be like major periods where the Aries will support the Taurus, And then the Taurus will support the Aries, and it's like, I've done this active duty for you, now you must do it for me. And so there may be times where they're like resentful, but then they're also like glad to pick up the slack and be like, yeah, I'm like a big boss too, just you watch. That's where we get back to the sort of competitive stuff where it's like, why is your relationship a competition? I don't know, these two can be actually really funny together. I think that's why I'm laughing, like, and that's kind of some of the attraction, is that like this dynamic of like this sort of uptight, sort of artistic, money obsessed person who loves luxury and like fine things is attracted to this like slapdash person who's like, I don't know, we're just gonna like figure it out as we go, and like let's go over there, like let's go here, and like what are you doing, what are you up to? Like that's the Aries, you know, they're just like a little bit wild and a little bit ADD. Like they are the epitome of ADHD, and it's just like they have undiagnosed ADHD, and there is no cure for their ADHD. Okay. I'm thinking of that movie, The Alpinist. I'm gonna close here. There's much more to say about this, but I'll just leave with some of these impressions and come back later maybe. The Alpinist is about, I think this kid was an Aries, is why I'm mentioning it. It's like he would climb mountains. He had ADHD and he like couldn't do school. He was like, I don't like school, I can't stay still. So he just like got into setting records of climbing mountains, and he was really young, and then he died because actually his friend, when the only time he brought a friend, I think it was because he got distracted that he died. I don't know what happened, but they got caught in an avalanche, and I'm not bringing that up to end on a tragic note. I'm just like, it's actually a fascinating story if you want to look it up, that because he climbed a lot of mountains, and they were like record-breaking times. They were amazing, and if he wouldn't have been able to do it without his neurodivergent brain. And okay, that's actually a good metaphor here, because Aries can be, you know, they're not going to die like that kid, because they're, you know, that's just a rare situation. Aries can be like, you know what, Taurus, I know you're scared to take a chance here, but let me take your hand. We're going to go try this. And the Taurus is like, oh, okay, we're leaving the safety zone, the comfort zone. And Aries is like, F yes, we have to. You know, there may be situations where it's like, yeah, it seems like the Taurus is like the slow and steady, like keeping things cool, but then the Taurus is like actually really afraid of change, and the Aries is like, you know what, I see what's coming up ahead here, and we're gonna have to like change our course, because of some of the stuff they have in their chart. Specifically, they have Scorpio in the 8th house, which can be very strategic, Capricorn in the 10th house, which can be very strategic. So they may be like, I'm looking at the time clock here, I'm looking at our resources, we got to make this change. And Taurus is like, okay. So that's when Aries comes in as the leader here, whereas Taurus is a fixed sign, and they're fixed in their ways. They're like, I like things how I like it. And that may also be sometimes a problem, because sometimes Aries may want to lead, and Taurus is like, I don't want to follow you. I don't want to follow anyone. But I think it's actually a beautiful sign. I mean, a beautiful matchup. As I said, like Taurus will teach the Aries about like sensuality and beauty, and like just like luxury, and like that they deserve luxury, and just like fun, sort of like structured fun. And then Aries will teach them to sort of let go a little bit in some ways, and be more like, just like maybe like throw their to-do list out the window sometimes. They will have a hard time, but they will get them to do that. And the times when they really have fun together is usually when they're like spending a bunch of money together. I know that sounds like stupid, but this couple, they like to, I'm not saying that in a bad way, they may like to be like, we're gonna plan for that big trip, we're gonna go, we're gonna get the whole family, it's gonna be good, we're gonna get all this food, and we're gonna like just celebrate. I'm like, you know, just like celebrating their good fortune and their mountain of funds that they've accumulated, the mountain of like finances and security and family, to be honest, that they've created, because these two will most likely have children. Yeah, I think I'm exhausted, but that's mainly what I want to share. about Aries and Taurus. Beautiful matchup with potential for a lot of spiritual growth. And yeah, thanks for tuning in.